My name is Todd Lagestee, and I'm running for Port Commissioner in District 5. That's a newly created district out there, also known as County Council District 3. I've been a firefighter, or I was a firefighter for the city of Bellingham for about 23 years, and I recently retired. Since I've retired, I've been an appointed elected official. That's quite a dubious honor, but I was appointed as the interim commissioner for the Public Utility District, and then which actually means I've done the job that the port commissioners do. And then now I'm a little bit of a judge, if you will. I am on the county's Board of Equalization. So I hear people's property tax appeals, and I get to decide whether or not they've brought enough evidence and actually try to help some people out. So I appreciate that. And previously, I was a nuclear operator on submarines, and so I actually know what it's like to bang your knuckles in the bilge after midnight. And I was an Eagle Scout growing up. I'm running for Port Commissioner because I think we actually need somebody on our Port Commission that understands money a little bit. I've been a credit union director for about 8 years now. So I have a fiduciary responsibility for over $400 million of our member assets. And economic development and what port commissioners do is basically all about board governance. And I've been doing that for 8 years. So you do two things as a port commissioner. You manage the CEO and you have budgetary authority. And in this case, budgetary authority, I think, is something where we need our elected officials to do a better job and bring more to the table. It isn't just enough for them to say, this is okay, staff. What I want from our elected officials, especially at the port, is I want people to understand money. And that means understanding the ingredients and the ingredients of what the menu items that staff are bringing in the budget. I think something where the port can and should do more is in our East County area. We need to bring jobs to where the people are. And I realize this is the Working Waterfront Coalition, and so maybe that isn't necessarily directly related to the Working Waterfront, but as we deal with climate change, we need to be putting jobs where people are. And the East County is definitely an economically disadvantaged and needs some help. And so I think some of the investments that the port can and should make should be focused on that East County area. I'd like to see more done with Sumas. I think that with a international border there, the port can take a lead there as well. So those are the areas I would like to see the port focus a little bit more on and actually empower our East County residents. The port as a public agency is doing a good job of managing its real estate assets. I think it can do a little better in how it approaches that, because I think we should have a tiered response in where we give our focus as we are an economic development agency, meaning that if we have a plan that wants to focus on certain areas, we should be able to find a way to prioritize those areas. That said, when I was on the PUD Commission, I was the one vote to not actually give away public resources to a private agency that we were engaged in a telecom development program with. I don't believe in getting rid of public resources and privatizing them. If the port did have to make a trade, then I would want to make sure that that trade was for the benefit of the community at large as they liquidated any public resources. I would like to talk about Blaine. And with Blaine, you know, we have a hurting community up there, and I think that the port can make a real difference. It isn't necessarily the role of the port commissioners to engage in the actual nitty-gritty of the development, but I have talked to some people. A community boating center up there in Blaine would potentially have a real economic development impact and also be something the community would value and get a benefit out of. But what I would like to see is the port utilize the freed up money from the non-voted GO general obligation bonds that were just paid off last year. That's about $1 million a year. And that money would be enough to pay for the bonds on a $20 million cleanup that was recently denied by the state. And then the port should utilize its relationships with legislators to get them to write some legislation to allow the port to be paid back that money and potentially create an incentive where the state doesn't actually sweep that money away in the future. Well, recently the port bought a farm, and so that's an interesting component. When I was on the PUD commission and then a little bit afterwards, I stuck around and worked on the strategic development the strategic plan for the public utility district. And I think that's where the port can and should put some effort in. I know we have the CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, but that's a countywide thing. And I want to have a strategic plan for the port that utilizes SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. And I think, so those SMART goals, and I might have been off on the A there, I can't always remember that one, but the SMART goals are where we can and should then prioritize where we utilize supports resources. For a while, I wasn't sure about how the development of the ASB lagoon should go. And I think that the development of the ASB lagoon that they have planned out now is pretty darn good. I think that it's a mix of utilizing some ability to put some contaminated soils in and create upland working areas, and then also create some areas for bigger ships or boats to come in. I think that partnering that with the Whatcom Waterway is the way forward. And one of the things I would like to see in the meantime is, and I'm going to run out of time here, but I want some wind power on the ASB lagoon. I think that would help us meet our climate action strategies. We haven't done that yet, and I think the port can and should be a leader when it comes to that. I'm going to say that my party affiliation, even though having been a chair of the local Democrat Party, the 40th LD Dems, does not play a significant role. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably about a 3, maybe a 4. And that's just because a lot of what my party has in their platform aligns with my personal values. That said, I stood up at County Council and said that they should only take the $8.2 million per year instead of the $10 million per year for the child care levy, because that's what they said that they wanted to take and get from the community. And that's what you get from me. I'm not a politician. I was a firefighter. I was dumb enough to run into a burning building, but I had to be smart enough to know what to do when I got there. I was an Eagle Scout. I'm not here to sell anybody a used car. I say what I think and I believe what I say, and that's what you're going to get from me. I've been coming to Port Commission meetings for a while now. Probably one of the first ones I went to was as a union firefighter advocating for the union firefighters at the airport and to try to get them into the firefighter pension system. And I've been paying attention to the port ever since. And I believe that I would make a great port commissioner because I bring a varied background. I have fiduciary responsibility for over $400 million of member assets as a credit union director. I've been a firefighter for 23 years, so I know our community from the highest levels to the lowest levels. And I also run a small business. I have a couple of rentals that I bought along the way. I know what it's like to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But I also have some ideas. I want to see a public development authority. I think the port can and should lead the way on development in our community, and that utilizing public resources to allow us to capture that for the public benefit is where we need to be.